Hey everybody, Jim from Coleus. Okay, as promised, I'm gonna pot up a few of my seedlings that are decent size. They're a good size to separate. Some I may have to separate. If they're not singles in the Jiffy pods. Others I'll separate. I'll show you how to do that. It's a good size to get them into pots. The sooner I get these into pots and fertilized, because then that's when the magic starts happening. When you can start to fertilize, the roots start to spread out more. One thing you don't want to do is put germinations in a big pot. You want to put them into like a nursery pot like I have, or a relatively small pot, so the roots can grow. And when you water, the water, if you put them in a big pot, the water's going to dissipate and the roots aren't going to get a chance to seek out that water and grow. So it's good to put them it's good to put your smaller germinations in a relatively small pot at first till they get to be mature plants. Then you can, later on, you can decide what you want to do, if you want to create a bigger planter, and I will be doing that all season, whether it's hanging baskets or larger planters or so forth. That's part of the fun. And what I do with again with my end game is the farmers market. So I try to create as many different pots and types of size planters, size pots and so forth that I can. So all right, so let's go inside. I'm gonna separate a few, get them started, planted. My worm castings has not arrived as of right now. Tomorrow, it's okay. Worm castings is natural. It's obviously a natural fertilizer. You can't put too much in. You can't make a mistake by putting too much in, because it's natural, it won't burn. It's just it's really good for the soils. Natural aerator, and it's got a little bit of nitrogen in it, obviously, but it's a really great addition to your soil, to your potting mixture. And there are a number of things people add to their soil. The Miracle-Gro moisture retention potting mixture that I buy already has the vermiculite in it, which absorbs and releases moisture, so you don't have to worry about overwatering or underwatering. So but I like to add the worm castings, and it doesn't smell. It's worm poop, but it doesn't smell. It's organic, and it's really healthy for your soil, for whatever it is, whether it's Coleus or if you're potting your own vegetables, any kind of plant. It's really good. And here again, I'm going to start off with the potting mixture, and then when I get my worm castings in, I'm just going to sprinkle some on the top and water, and then you can add it. And then later on, when I make the rest of my pots, I'll have the worm castings in. So, but I wanted to shoot this video out for you guys today, so let's get started. Okay, all right, so if you're following along, you know, I already prepped these little pots. So we got the Miracle-Gro potting mixture in here. You can see the little vermiculite. Those are the little pieces of this is what makes it moisture retention or moisture control. It was actually absorb and release water. So when the surrounding soil is drier than that, then it'll release moisture, and it keeps your soil well balanced with moisture. So you know, so if you skip a day, you go away for a night or two, and you skip a day, your plants, whether it's Coleus or whatever, will still be able to get enough water for the roots. So all right, so we got this. Again, this is the system I use. This is just one tray holds, and that's why I like the smaller nursery pots. So I get about 17 pots per tray, and when all said and done, I usually end up between 15 and 20 of these trays by the time I end up outdoors in my outdoor greenhouse and so forth, and then from there I go. Here we go. Got some Osmocote. This is the time release general purpose plant food to sprinkle just a little bit. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want to go too much. I mean, this stuff it releases as you water, so you can't really burn, but you still don't want to go crazy. A little at a time, because you remember the seedlings are their roots are very small and they're young and tender, so just a little bit. Put that on top, so we're all ready to go. And then we'll bring these inside and we'll pot up a few. We'll separate some, and others, again, if you saw the video I from yesterday, some of the Jiffy pods can be dropped right down in the center. Just poke a hole and drop your Jiffy pod in the center, and then cover it back up, pat it down, water, and you don't even have to take the netting off, and I'll show you inside. But that's why it's a good system for me. This works really for me because I start my plants inside. I have the racks in my front of my bay window, so it's a nice compact way for me to start a large amount of Coleus, because I do sell these at a farmer's market in the summer. So it's a good way for me to start a large amount of Coleus, and before they really start getting out of hand, really large, I'm out in the outdoor greenhouse where I have a lot more space. So I try to time it that way, and it works out. This is something that I've sort of crafted over the 10 years or so that I've been doing this. So okay, so let's go inside and I'll pot up a few, and you just use this as a guide. And you could tweak it. Doesn't have to be these type of pots. It could be any kind of pots, larger pots. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important. If you're taking a small seedling, you don't want to put it in a giant pot. Certainly don't want to put it in a giant pot, because if you put a little seedling, again, in the pot, in a big pot, you have that little seedling and those little roots with a tremendous amount of soil around it. And if you water it, even if you water around the thing, it's still, the water is gonna dissipate out away from the plant, and the roots are not going to be able to reach out that far. Yes, they're going to develop, they're going to be seeking water naturally, but putting it a smaller germination in a relative size pot in the beginning, this is when you're growing Coleus from seed, it gives it it's the best chance to actually to develop and grow. That's why these are considered nursery pots, like a nursery school. So okay, so let's head inside and pot up a couple of seedlings. Okay, and hey, before we get started, a little bonus. I'm going to be planting some bell pepper seeds. If you bought seeds from me, I packed some, not all orders, with a little bonus bell pepper seeds. So I have my Jiffy pods here, and in a little while we'll show you how I plant my bell peppers for the summer. All right, so as mentioned, I'm gonna be separating some, not all, of these seedlings. Those are way too small, obviously, but some of these larger ones here, look at the color already. I'm going to get those into pots because they're ready to go. I mean, the sooner we get these into, as I mentioned earlier, the sooner we get these into pots, the better they're going to do. They'll start to really grow. So get your seedlings ready and get them into pots. And this is generally a good size. This is generally a good size to, yeah, it's hard really to, but this is generally a good size. There's a little scale there of when to separate them. I mean, they have their true leaves, obviously. You can see the little cotyledons down there. Those are the original little ears. They're redundant now. They don't really serve any purpose. But don't cut them off, leave them. They'll either stay on for the life of the plant or they'll just drop off naturally. But they don't really do anything anymore. They're not really feeding the plant anymore. You can see some more. There's another set of leaves coming in. So we're going to get this potted up because this is going to be a beautiful Coleus. So, and as mentioned, this was the star of the show yesterday. This is that colossal marble. Now again, Jiffy pods, you do not have to tear away this netting. Just poke a hole, and we'll do that now, and pop it in. So let's get started. Okay, so as mentioned, got our potting mixture. Make sure you get a good quality potting mixture. Sprinkle a little bit of time-release fertilizer in there. You could actually drop some down in the center if you have any. You can drop a little of the time-release fertilizer down here below. That'll really benefit. And if you're not using time-release fertilizer, you're using a regular fertilizer, just go easy at this point because you can burn the plants. But we're gonna make a little hole. And again, you can, or if you want to take off this netting, you can. If you don't, that's fine also. I'm going to take it off. If at the point all of the roots are going through this netting, then don't take it off. But at this point I can. Very simple. Be very gentle. And make sure you pat in all here. Make a little moat. Sort of make a moat. Sort of, you can see that. Whoops, excuse me. Make a little moat. So when you water, the water will kind of run down around the outside of the pod. And I still made some room because tomorrow, again, my worm castings will be in here, and I'll just sprinkle the worm castings around here because it really looks, they look like soil. It's just worm poop, but very nutritious. Give it a good shot of water. It doesn't necessarily have to run through the bottom, but that's a good measure, a good guide to know that you watered this enough. So there we go. Is that our first Coleus of 2023. Now, if you're following along, we're going to watch this beautiful Coleus grow, and we'll see what where it ends up, whether it'll be in a hanging basket or a pot, a planter, who knows. And that we'll get into later on as the season develops. Beautiful color. Okay, so here we are. As I mentioned, if you're following along and you're starting your seeds with me, I mentioned how you want to really, you don't want to go too crazy over seeding. I thin them out and so forth, but it's nice when you can spread out the seeds. Put four or five. This one has about 1, 2, yeah, look at 5 Coleus, but you can see they're pretty separated already, so it's going to be very easy to separate these and pot. So again, you just tear off the membrane, and you know, they're very resilient, so you're gonna really like, oh my god, I'm killing them, but they're very resilient. At this point, just be gentle, pop them down. They're very resilient at this point. And you know what? That's another reason why I overseed, in case I do tear one. But there we go. We got that root ball. And you can drop a little fertilizer in there. It's sort of surgeon work. So drop it down. These are pretty tender. This is smaller than the first one, obviously, but the principle's the same. Just get it in that spot. Gently get it in that spot. And gently pat it down. Again, I made some room for the worm castings that'll come in. Now just be gentle when you water because it may flop over. So give it enough water. And if it flops over, just kind of play with it a little bit, not too much, but get it going. And move on to the next one. Later on, I may put 2 in here and then separate them again as a whole, like a giant jiffy pod later, because I do have so many plants. So, but I want to get these into pots. How's that? Look at that beautiful color. So, I'm gonna drop this down. Actually, we need a little more. We need a little more potting mixture here. It's a little delicate. It's tedious. It's more tedious when I'm trying to film to make sure I get everything on film for you guys to see. But you get the concept. Get it in. Pat it down gently. You know, it's going to wiggle a little bit. You want to make sure it's anchored in pretty well. Sorry, trying to keep an eye on the camera. But you want to get it anchored in pretty well. And then gently water. Of course, I have the fertilizer in here already. So, gently water. And make sure it doesn't flop over. Again, they're pretty, I mean, they're delicate, but they're still tough little fellers to, and you know, your main objective is to get it into the soil and water it and get that sun going, get the grow lights or the sun on it. Okay, and we'll do one more. Actually, you can see there's 3 here. I got these 2 larger, healthier ones, and that little one, I'm just gonna pull that out. There's actually another little tiny one coming in here too, so we're just gonna pull that one out. And you know, when I separate them, I do take the netting off, and I do end up when I get going on these, and I do maybe 20 at a time, I get a pretty large mound of the leftover potting mixture from the Jiffy Pod, the peat mixture, which is good, and I just use it. I add it into the pot. But actually, at this point now, when you have 2, just like a cupcake, like you're cutting a piece of cake in half, just take the 2. And you know, you could take a little bit. I look at see what the hole I have here, and you kind of judge it and say, okay, I got a lot of room here, so we'll put this down here below. And whoops, sprinkle a little of that there. Got some time release fertilizer, just a little bit. Okay. And water. Enough water to get down into the root ball. And again, got some room here for when I get my worm castings. Got the cotyledons up above. Nice healthy coleus. Good sized pot, not too big, so the roots can get that water. So when you do water it, it's going to go out towards the edges, but it's not far away where the little roots can't seek that water out. If you put it in a big pot and you water it, the water's going to eventually drain down far away from the roots, and they're not going to get water. So that's why it's good to keep them in a relative pot, relative to the size of your, at this point we're at seedlings. You know, if it's a bigger coleus or established coleus that you buy at the store, or if it's one of your coleus and you're going to repot it to a bigger pot, that's different, because it's an established coleus, has a lot more complex root system that can already seek out that water. But these are going to be well on their way. A few germinations around this size. You can go ahead and separate them if you need to, or put them right into, drop the Jiffy Pod right into the pot. And hey, don't forget, if you're following along and you have cuttings rather, don't forget to keep rinsing the water. Make sure you keep those root balls nice and clean when you can, as often as you can. I know we're real busy. But rinse that root ball. Look at that. That's an extensive root ball. Rinse it. Make sure there's no debris in the water. Same thing here. There's an inky fingers. Just gently, like a washing machine. Make sure you get any kind of debris. Nice healthy root ball. So don't forget, keep your cuttings going. Make sure you change your water and rinse the root balls until you plant them. These will be planted outdoors, probably the end of May, when the weather, when temperatures are above 65, especially at night, and there's no harsh weather. There's no rush, but I don't start my outdoor planters till at least the end of May. Okay, as promised, here we are. We're gonna plant our bell peppers, or they're green bell peppers, red. As they grow in your garden, the longer you leave the green ones on, they'll generally, some of them will turn to red, not all of them. But last year I got actually more red bell peppers last year than green. But this is how I start my bell peppers. Same concept as the Coleus. I use the Jiffy Pods as well. Fill warm water, let them expand completely, tear away all of the membrane so it exposes the peat. Okay, so we got them all torn away, and here's your test. What's the difference between planting Coleus seeds and most other seeds, like vegetable seeds and so forth? What's the difference? The difference is Coleus seeds have to be on top and gently tapped down. They need light to germinate, light, moisture, and warmth. These seeds have to be planted below the soil surface. So what I do, I use the Jiffy Pods. I just take a marker, just poke a hole in the center, and let's get a little close-up of these. And these I take a bell pepper when I buy at the store. I get a bunch of them, and I open them up, and I take the seeds and I drop them out on a paper plate, and I let them dry for about a month. You can see some of these darker ones here. These aren't viable. So what I look through here, see the darker ones, those little dark ones, they're not viable. So what I do is I pick out the ones that are nice, that look nice and healthy. And we just drop one in the center, backfill it, and let's give it some water. So we just go through all of the pods here, poke holes in them, and then drop 1 or 2 seeds. I have 12 here. This is more than enough. I don't need more than 12 bell pepper plants from my garden. So I'm going to have 1 seed per pod. Water it. I'm going to cover with the clear cut, or with the top. Just like the Coleus, I'm going to put it in the greenhouse and under grow lights until they germinate. And again, once they start to germinate, it's going to be a little longer because they're going to germinate beneath the soil, and then they have to reach and break the top soil. So it may take 2 weeks until they actually I can actually physically see them grow. But I've been doing this a few years, and I get pretty quick responses. I get pretty quick germination. So, but same concept. Water them Plant them, water them, cover them with a clear dome, either plastic or the dome. Put them under a grow light, let them germinate. Once you see them coming through, pop off the top a little bit, let the air in. And then once they start to really show, like all of the pods, you can clearly see the germination up above, reaching out, then remove the cover and water and let them continue to grow. Okay, I put the cover on, but I did not, this is a chunk from Chinese food restaurant, I did not seal it. I didn't close it and snap it. This is sufficient to keep the moisture in, but it's not going to seal it and you're not going to get any oxygen in there. So you want to, just enough to keep the moisture in, just like the Coleus. And into the greenhouse, under the grow lights. And I'm going to keep these grow lights I'm going to keep this set of grow lights on 24 hours a day for these until they germinate. And then a week or so after, I'll have them go back to the cycle. By then, hopefully in another 2 weeks, I'll have most of everything planted. And then I'm going to be moving these grow lights onto these racks to put over the trays. So, but that's coming on down the line. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, but a lot of exciting, beautiful, colorful Coleus to come. Okay, so hope this gets you started. Again, once I may or may not shoot another video on this. I think this is sufficient. If you have any other questions, just drop me a message, or on Instagram, leave me a message if you have any kind of trouble. And don't worry, don't ever think any question is too stupid or you're bothering me. That's what I'm here for. And just wait. I'll be posting updated videos on this tray here that I've completed. I'm going to post an updated video on that, and you'll see how they really start to develop. Now they're in pots and fertilized and watered, and the lighting is just right, how fast they respond. And within a few weeks, we're going to have really good sized Coleus. Not crazy. I want to get them going, but I only have so much space here. But I do manage it every year. I have it down to a science for myself until I can get myself outside into the outdoor greenhouse. So, all right, so take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Getting really close to 10,000. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. See you soon.